fellow wanderers of Middle-earth. Gather close as we enter the most mysterious sanctuary in all of Tolkien's legendarium, where one of the mightiest beings ever to walk Middle-earth communes daily with waters that reveal the hidden currents of time itself. Before we begin this gentle journey into the heart of Lothlorien's greatest secrets, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is there. And if these contemplative explorations bring you peace, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our Fellowship of the Wise. Tonight, we follow Galadriel as she answers the irresistible summons that calls her each dawn to look upon visions that would drive lesser minds to madness. The silver basin rests in its glade like a jewel cupped by the earth itself, its surface perfectly still in the moments before Galadriel's approach disturbs the delicate boundary between water and revelation. The Malorn trees that surround this sacred space bend their golden branches inward, creating a natural cathedral where light filters through leaves that seem to hold their own luminescence. No wind disturbs this sanctuary, for even the elements recognize the importance of what transpires here each day. Galadriel feels the mirror's pull before she consciously decides to visit, a gentle tugging at the edges of her immortal awareness that grows stronger as dawn approaches. The sensation resembles thirst, but operates on levels far deeper than physical need, calling to aspects of her nature that few beings in Middle-earth could understand. This summons has become as natural as breathing, as inevitable as the rising of the sun itself. Her footsteps make no sound on the soft grass that carpets the approach to the mirror's glade, yet her presence seems to awaken something dormant in the waters themselves. The surface that moments before reflected only sky and leaves now begins to show the faintest shimmer of anticipation. The boundary between ordinary water and mystical portal grows thin as she draws near. The ritual of preparation requires no conscious thought after centuries of practice, her movements flowing with the grace of someone who has performed these actions countless times before. She fills the silver ewer from the stream that feeds the basin, each drop carrying potential for revelation that hangs heavy in the morning air. The water responds to her touch like a living thing, recognizing the hand of its appointed guardian. As she pours the stream into the basin, Galadriel feels the familiar shift in perception that marks the transition from ordinary sight to something far more profound and dangerous. The water begins to glow with inner light that has nothing to do with reflected sunshine, emanating power that makes the air itself seem to vibrate with possibility. This moment always brings both anticipation and dread, for she never knows what truths the mirror will choose to reveal. The first visions begin to form before the water has finished settling, images rising from depths that exist outside normal space and time. She has learned to approach these revelations with careful detachment, understanding that too much emotional investment in what she sees can cloud her judgment or drive her toward actions that fate does not intend. The mirror shows what it wills, not necessarily what she wishes to see. Her immortal mind prepares itself for the day's burden of knowledge, steel sharpened for the weight of seeing clearly what others perceive only dimly or not at all. This gift that has been both blessing and curse throughout her long existence demands daily renewal of her commitment to wisdom over power, guidance over control. The waters await her gaze, ready to reveal secrets that will shape her understanding of what was what is, and what yet might come to pass. The first images that rise from the mirror's depths carry the weight of ages long past, scenes from the elder days, when the world was younger and filled with wonders that have since faded into legend. Galadriel watches the two trees of Valinor bloom again in miniature perfection, their silver and gold light dancing across the water's surface with beauty that brings tears even to her ancient eyes. These memories of home remain as vivid as the day she first witnessed them, preserved in the mirror's perfect recall. The waters show her Beleriand before its destruction. Green shores and fair cities that now lie beneath the waves of the sundering seas. She sees again the kinstrife that drove her people into exile, the burning ships at Lasgar, the oath that doomed her cousins to endless pursuit of the Silmarils. Each vision carries the sting of choices that cannot be unmade, consequences that echo still through the turning of the ages. Her own younger self appears in the visions, proud and ambitious, hungry for realms to rule in lands across the sea. The mirror shows her moments of decision that seemed insignificant at the time, but shaped the course of her entire existence. She watches herself refuse the pardon offered by the Valar, choosing to remain in Middle-earth rather than admit the folly of her rebellion. The mirror reveals how the seeds of present troubles were planted in those distant days, how the corruption of Numenor began with gifts of knowledge meant in friendship, but received in pride. She sees the forging of the rings of power, her own eager participation in that fateful work, the moment when Celebrimbor first spoke of creating objects to preserve what time would otherwise destroy. The irony cuts deep as she recognizes how their desire to stop decay became the very means by which darkness would spread. These visions of the past serve purposes beyond mere remembrance, for they contain lessons that inform her understanding of present dangers. The patterns that led to ancient disasters repeat themselves in new forms, requiring vigilance from those who have lived long enough to recognize the warning signs. History's weight becomes a tool for preventing its repetition, though the burden of such knowledge grows heavier with each passing age. The water shows her friends and loved ones long since departed, their faces unmarked by the grief that would later claim them. She watches Celebrimbor at his forge, hands shaping gold with innocent joy before shadows touched his heart. Gil-galad appears in his glory, leading the last alliance with hope that would be vindicated. Through sacrifice, she can barely endure to witness again. Each image that rises from the mirror demands careful study, for the past holds keys to understanding both present circumstances and future possibilities. Galadriel has learned to read these visions not as entertainment or nostalgia, but as instruction from time itself. The dead speak through these waters, offering counsel from beyond the circles of the world to those wise enough to listen. The accumulated weight of witnessed history settles upon her shoulders like a mantle that grows heavier each day. She alone, among the remaining powers of Middle-earth, carries complete memory of how the current age began, what hopes drove its founding, what errors led to its present perils. This knowledge makes her both more valuable and more isolated than any crown could achieve. As the last vision of the past fades back into ordinary water, Galadriel prepares herself for what the mirror will show her next. The transition from memory to present sight always brings renewed tension, for while the past is fixed and knowable, The present moment contains all the uncertainty and danger that active choice creates. The mirror's surface shimmers and transforms, releasing its hold on ancient memory to reveal the immediate present unfolding across the vast expanse of Middle-earth. Galadriel's enhanced perception sweeps across leagues of distance, as easily as scanning the palm of her hand, witnessing events that occur at this very moment, in places both familiar and strange. The burden of simultaneous awareness settles upon her consciousness, like a tide that brings both revelation and responsibility. In the north, she watches rangers moving through the wild lands beyond the Shire's borders, their quiet vigilance protecting those who sleep peacefully in round doors and comfortable beds. Their sacrifices remain unknown to those they guard. These men who have chosen exile and hardship so that others might know security. The loneliness of their calling resonates with her own isolation, though their mortality grants them respite she cannot claim. Her sight turns eastward to reveal caravans struggling through mountain passes, merchants and travelers facing dangers they barely comprehend, while evil stirs in shadows just beyond their perception. She sees bandits preparing ambushes, wolves gathering for winter hunts, storms building strength that will test the endurance of all who dare the open road. Each threatened life becomes a weight upon her conscience, knowledge that demands decision about intervention. The waters show her Minas Tirith's white towers gleaming in morning sunlight, but also reveal the subtle signs of decay that escape mortal notice. Stones that appear solid to human eyes show her their hidden fractures, weaknesses that time and weather slowly exploit. The city's strength remains formidable, yet she perceives the patient work of entropy that will eventually claim even the mightiest works of mortal hands. Across the plains of Rohan, she observes the horse lords at their daily labors, tending herds and maintaining the skills that make them the finest cavalry in all Middle-earth. Their simple lives carry beauty that touches her heart, reminding her why preservation of such innocence justifies whatever sacrifices the wise must make. Yet she also sees the wolves that watch their settlements from hidden valleys, evil creatures that grow bolder as darker powers test the boundaries of the light. The mirror reveals Isengard's transformation under Saruman's guidance, showing her machines and furnaces that reshape the earth according to plans that fill her with growing unease. What appears to mortal eyes as progress toward order, an efficiency reveals itself to her enhanced perception as preparation for something far more sinister. The corruption spreads like disease through everything the White Wizard touches, perverting nature itself to serve ambitions that grow ever more threatening. In Erebor's halls, she watches dwarven smiths at their forges, hammers ringing against anvils as they create works of lasting beauty and strength. Their dedication to craft provides comfort in a world where so much tends toward decay. Yet even their mountainous stronghold shows her signs of weakness that enemies might exploit. No fortress remains impregnable to those who possess patience and sufficient malice. The simultaneous awareness of so many distant scenes creates pressure that would shatter minds unprepared for such vastness of perception. Galadriel bears this burden through training that spans millennia, yet the weight never diminishes completely. Each day's visions add new concerns to the accumulated store of knowledge that shapes her understanding of Middle-earth's current state and future possibilities. The responsibility that accompanies such sight extends far beyond mere observation. For knowledge without appropriate action becomes complicity in whatever evils unfold. She must choose carefully when to act upon what she sees, balancing intervention against the natural order that gives mortals the right to shape their own destinies. The loneliness of perfect vision grows heavier with each passing day, isolation that comes from seeing too clearly what others cannot perceive. The mirror's waters deepen to reveal the most treacherous realm of all vision, the shifting landscape of what might yet come to pass, depending on choices not yet made. Galadriel steels herself for this portion of each day's communion, knowing that these glimpses of potential futures carry the greatest burden and the most dangerous temptations. Unlike the fixed certainty of past events or the concrete reality of present circumstances, these visions show possibilities that branch and merge like rivers' delta, each decision creating new streams of consequence. She sees Minas Tirith burning under a rain of fire, its white stones blackened by flames that consume everything beautiful and noble in the world of men. The vision carries such vivid detail that she can almost feel the heat against her face, smell the smoke that chokes the air where songs once celebrated the glory of Gondor. Yet this same scene dissolves to show the city standing triumphant, its banners flying in sunlight that seems to promise ages of peace and prosperity. The Shire appears in the waters, both as pastoral paradise where hobbits tend their gardens in eternal contentment, and as wasteland where mills and factories belch smoke into skies that no longer know the colors of sunrise. She watches Bag End's round door opening to welcome travelers with warmth and hospitality, then sees the same door hanging broken on its hinges, while weeds grow through floors that once knew the comfort of friendship. Both futures feel equally real, equally possible, depending on decisions yet to be made. Her own fate appears in multiple forms that reflect the choices she faces each day. In one vision, she stands as Queen of Middle-earth, with Nenya blazing on her finger, commanding power that makes her word law throughout the known world. The temptation this image carries strikes at the deepest parts of her nature, offering everything her pride has ever desired, wrapped in justifications about necessary authority and beneficial control. Another possibility shows her sailing into the west aboard a white ship, finally granted the pardon she has sought through long ages of exile and penance. The peace that radiates from this vision promises rest from burdens that have shaped her existence for millennia, release from responsibilities that grow heavier with each passing year. Yet departure would mean abandoning those who depend on her guidance during the darkness that approaches. The waters reveal potential destruction so complete that nothing remains of the world she has spent ages protecting and nurturing. Cities lie empty, forests stand withered. Even the Shire's green hills bear only the marks of ancient battles fought by peoples whose names have been forgotten. This vision of ultimate failure haunts her with its implications, suggesting that all her efforts might prove insufficient against the growing shadow. Yet hope appears alongside despair in the mirror's shifting depths, showing futures where the darkness retreats and beauty flourishes beyond anything the current age has known. She sees children playing in gardens where mullein trees grow tall, their laughter echoing through air that carries no taint of fear or sorrow. These glimpses of possible joy provide strength to endure the burden of darker visions. The most disturbing aspect of these future glimpses lies not in their content, but in their multiplicity, the way each decision splits reality into countless potential outcomes. Galadriel must carry awareness that every choice creates both triumph and tragedy, that even the wisest actions may lead to consequences that mock the intentions behind them. The weight of so much possibility presses down upon her spirit like ocean depths that threaten to crush any swimmer who ventures too far from shore. The most agonizing burden that accompanies Galadriel's communion with the mirror lies not in witnessing terrible possibilities, but in deciding which visions deserve sharing with those who seek her counsel. Mortals arrive at her realm carrying questions about loved ones far away, desperate for guidance about decisions that will shape their brief lives. Each supplicant trusts her wisdom to provide answers that will bring comfort or clarity, never suspecting that knowledge itself can become a weapon that destroys rather than heals. When Frodo gazed into the waters and saw the Shire burning, she watched his heart break as clearly as if she had struck him with a physical blow. The vision revealed a real possibility that his quest might fail to save the home he loved most in all the world. Yet showing him this future served purposes beyond mere revelation, forcing him to confront the true stakes of his mission, while demonstrating that even the most peaceful corners of Middle-earth remained vulnerable to the growing darkness. The choice to reveal such painful truths never becomes easier, despite centuries of practice. Galadriel must weigh the value of foreknowledge against the damage that premature revelation might cause to unprepared minds. Some futures depend upon ignorance for their fulfillment, requiring that key actors remain unaware of their ultimate destinies until the proper moment for understanding arrives. She remembers the countless times when withholding information proved more merciful than honesty, when knowledge would have paralyzed rather than empowered those who sought her guidance. Warriors have left her presence, believing their cause hopeless, when she saw victory within their grasp, because learning of certain triumph would have bred the overconfidence that ensures defeat. The paradox of helpful deception weighs heavily upon her conscience. Other visions demand immediate sharing despite the pain they bring, for some disasters can only be prevented through advance warning. She has watched kingdoms fall because their rulers refused to hear prophecies that contradicted their desires, yet she continues offering unwelcome truths to those brave enough to accept them. The responsibility for others' choices cannot excuse her failure to provide the information they need for wise decision-making. The temptation to manipulate through selective revelation grows stronger as her awareness of potential futures expands. She could guide events toward outcomes she prefers, by carefully choosing which possibilities to reveal and which to conceal from those whose choices shape reality. This power over destiny represents the ultimate test of her wisdom and restraint, requiring constant vigilance against the corruption that such influence might breed. Children present the most difficult choices, for their minds cannot bear the weight of knowledge that would crush adult spirits. When young ones peer into the mirror seeking reassurance about parents who journey far from home, she must find ways to provide comfort without lies while avoiding truths that would steal their innocence prematurely. The balance between protection and honesty shifts constantly, demanding fresh judgment with each encounter. Some seekers possess strength sufficient to bear whatever revelations the mirror provides, their spirits tempered by trials that have prepared them for difficult truths. These rare individuals receive her complete honesty, becoming partners in the burden of terrible knowledge rather than subjects requiring careful management. Their presence provides relief from the isolation that comes with carrying secrets too dangerous for ordinary minds. The weight of these decisions accumulates over time, creating a treasury of guilt over opportunities missed, and disasters enabled through her choices about revelation and concealment. Each day brings new seekers whose fates depend partly upon the wisdom she demonstrates in sharing or withholding what the waters reveal about their futures and the consequences of their contemplated actions. The gift of perfect vision exacts a toll that grows heavier with each passing age, transforming what should be blessing into burden, that isolates Galadriel from the very people she seeks to protect and guide. No mortal can truly comprehend the weight of seeing all possibilities simultaneously, of carrying knowledge that spans past, present, and future in consciousness that never finds respite from awareness. Her immortal mind processes information that would shatter lesser beings, yet the cost of such clarity manifests in loneliness that deepens with each revelation. Ordinary relationships become impossible when every conversation reveals not only what speakers intend, but also what they conceal, what they fear, what futures await them based on choices they have not yet recognized they will make. Friends cannot maintain comfortable deceptions about their own motivations when speaking with someone who perceives the truth beneath every word. The casual intimacy that mortals enjoy remains forever beyond her reach, replaced by the terrible honesty that perfect sight imposes. Even Celeborn, her beloved husband who has shared millennia of her existence, cannot fully bridge the gap that separates her enhanced perception from normal awareness. He sees her withdraw into herself after each communion with the mirror, recognizes the signs of fresh burdens settling upon her spirit, yet lacks the ability to share the specific weight she carries. Their love endures across ages, but understanding requires experience that cannot be conveyed through even the most patient explanation. The isolation deepens when she observes friends making choices that she knows will lead to sorrow, yet intervention would prevent the growth that only comes through freely chosen experience. She watches beloved companions walk toward heartbreak with the helpless frustration of someone who sees disaster approaching, but cannot warn of danger without destroying the very relationships she seeks to preserve. Knowledge becomes prison when sharing it would cause more harm than remaining silent. Sleep offers no escape from the visions that crowd her consciousness, for dreams blend seamlessly with waking sight to create continuous awareness that knows no boundaries between rest and vigilance. Her mind processes revelations even during moments intended for restoration, analyzing possibilities and consequences with relentless efficiency that prevents the peaceful oblivion lesser beings enjoy. Rest becomes meditation rather than true respite from the demands of enhanced perception. The weight of seeing clearly extends beyond mere information to encompass emotional resonance with every tragedy she witnesses across space and time. Each death diminishes her spirit. Every betrayal leaves wounds that accumulate, despite her immortal nature's ability to heal physical damage. The mirror forces her to experience the full emotional impact of events she cannot prevent, creating empathy so profound it threatens to overwhelm even her ancient strength. Pride that once sustained her through the early ages of exile now provides insufficient comfort against the grinding loneliness that comes with ultimate clarity. The crown she refused in Valinor seems insignificant compared to the burden she bears daily. Responsibility that requires constant sacrifice of personal peace for the welfare of others. Power over destiny proves less satisfying than the simple friendships her enhanced perception makes impossible to maintain. Most painful of all, she recognizes that her gift creates the very distance it was meant to bridge. Thus, seeking to help others through superior sight actually separates her from the community she wishes to serve. The mirror grants wisdom at the cost of belonging. Understanding purchased through isolation that grows more complete with each day's revelations about the true nature of existence and the fragility of everything she holds dear. The most delicate art that Galadriel has mastered through her long communion with the mirror lies in offering guidance that illuminates without dictating, wisdom that empowers choice rather than replacing it with predetermined outcomes. Every visitor who seeks her counsel presents a test of her discipline, challenging her to share insight in ways that enhance rather than diminish their capacity for independent decision. The temptation to simply command the courses of action she knows will lead to the best results grows stronger, as her foresight reveals increasingly dire consequences for poor choices. When desperate rulers arrive seeking military advice, she must resist the urge to provide detailed battle plans that would guarantee victory but rob commanders of the growth that comes through strategic thinking. Instead, she offers perspectives that help them see their situations more clearly, while leaving the crucial decisions in their own hands. This restraint requires constant vigilance against the pride that whispers she could solve every problem if only others would submit to her superior wisdom. Her guidance takes forms that mortals often fail to recognize as instruction, subtle influences that steer without constraining the fundamental freedom that makes choice meaningful. A carefully chosen question can redirect thinking more effectively than direct advice, while shared stories from ancient times provide context that illuminates present dilemmas without dictating specific responses. The art lies in planting seeds of understanding that will grow according to each individual's nature and circumstances. The Fellowship's visit to Lothlorien demonstrated this principle in its purest form, as she tested each member not to judge their worthiness, but to help them understand their own hearts more clearly. Boromir's confrontation with his desire for the ring served purposes beyond mere revelation, forcing him to acknowledge temptations he had been denying, while providing opportunity for conscious resistance. Even failure in such tests brings valuable self-knowledge that strengthens future choices. Her interactions with Frodo required the most delicate balance between revelation and restraint, for his burden demanded support that could easily become manipulation if offered without careful consideration. She showed him visions that would strengthen his resolve, without removing the uncertainty that makes heroism possible, providing encouragement that enhanced rather than replaced his natural courage. The ring's corruption made every word a potential weapon that could turn help into harm. The mirror itself serves as tool for guidance that preserves free will, for it shows possibilities rather than certainties, futures that depend upon choices yet to be made. Visitors who gaze into its waters receive information that expands their understanding without determining their responses to what they learn. This distinction between knowledge and compulsion represents the foundation of ethical influence that respects the dignity of conscious beings. Sometimes the most helpful guidance requires her to remain completely silent, allowing others to struggle toward understanding that will prove more valuable for being earned rather than given. She has watched friends make painful mistakes that she could have prevented with a single word. Yet intervention would have denied them the wisdom that comes only through experience. The discipline required for such restraint tests her compassion as severely as any physical ordeal. The greatest challenge lies in maintaining this balance when the stakes grow catastrophic, when poor choices threaten not just individuals but entire civilizations. Her knowledge of possible futures creates pressure to abandon subtle guidance in favor of direct control. Yet she recognizes that victories achieved through manipulation carry the seeds of future corruption. Freedom remains sacred even when exercised foolishly, for only through genuine choice can beings become worthy of the light they claim to serve. There are blessed mornings when Galadriel approaches the silver basin to find only ordinary water reflecting sky and leaves, its surface unmarked by visions that would otherwise crowd her consciousness with the weight of infinite possibility. These moments of silence arrive without warning or apparent pattern, gifts that seem to emerge from the mirror's own recognition that even immortal minds require respite from the burden of perfect sight. The absence of revelation brings relief so profound that she sometimes weeps with gratitude for temporary blindness. During these peaceful interludes, she can experience the world as mortal beings do, perceiving only what lies directly before her eyes without the overlay of past and future that normally colors every observation. The malern trees surrounding the mirror's glade reveal nothing beyond their immediate beauty. Golden leaves catching sunlight without triggering memories of ancient forests or visions of possible destruction. This limitation of perception feels like freedom after the constant pressure of expanded awareness. The silence allows her to engage with simple pleasures that enhanced sight normally transforms into complex understanding of causes and consequences. She can admire a flower's bloom without simultaneously perceiving the entire cycle of growth and decay that governs its existence. Birds singing in the branches above bring only their present music, unaccompanied by awareness of the migrations and seasonal changes that will guide their future journeys. These moments remind her why ordinary beings find contentment in their limited perspectives, how the boundaries of normal sight create space for wonder that infinite knowledge tends to diminish. Without knowing everything, she can appreciate the mystery that gives beauty its power to surprise and delight. The future regains its character as adventure rather than burden when she cannot see all the paths it might take. Her conversations with Celeborn during these periods carry ease that enhanced perception normally prevents, for she can listen to his words without simultaneously understanding all the motivations and concerns that shape them. Their love finds fresh expression when filtered through ordinary sight, that allows each moment to unfold naturally, rather than being interpreted through awareness of every possible outcome. The present becomes sufficient unto itself, rather than merely prelude to futures already glimpsed. The mirror's silence also provides opportunity for purely personal reflection. Without the constant demand to process information that affects the welfare of entire civilizations, she can contemplate her own heart without the weight of responsibility that normally shapes every thought toward service of others. These rare moments of selfish consideration prove essential for maintaining the emotional balance that her role as guardian requires. Sometimes she tries to penetrate the silence through force of will, attempting to summon visions when the waters remain stubbornly opaque to supernatural sight. These efforts always fail, teaching her repeatedly that the mirror's gifts cannot be commanded or controlled, but must be received with whatever grace she can muster. The humility required to accept such limitations proves as valuable as any wisdom the visions themselves provide. The transition back to enhanced perception after periods of silence brings renewed appreciation for both states of being. Ordinary sight and supernatural vision, each revealing truths that the other cannot encompass. She learns to value the limitations that give shape to experience as much as the expanded awareness that reveals hidden connections. Balance between knowing and not knowing becomes the foundation of wisdom that serves rather than corrupts. When the silence finally breaks and visions begin to form once more in the mirror's depths, she faces them with restored strength that comes from temporary rest. The burden feels lighter for having been briefly set aside. Her capacity for bearing difficult knowledge renewed through periods of blessed ignorance that remind her why such knowledge matters in the first place. The most unsettling visions that rise from the mirror's depths are those that show Galadriel herself, forcing her to confront the possible consequences of her own choices, with the same clarity she brings to observing others' destinies. These glimpses of personal future arrive without warning, disrupting her careful detachment and making her both observer and observed in the complex dance of possibility that governs all existence. The experience proves particularly jarring because it transforms her from interpreter of visions into subject of interpretation, requiring her to analyze her own motivations with the same ruthless honesty she applies to others. She watches herself accepting the ring from Frodo's trembling hands, sees how easily noble intentions could justify the seizure of power that her heart has desired for ages beyond counting. In this vision, she becomes the beautiful and terrible queen that her refusal prevented, wielding authority that transforms Middle-earth according to her perfect wisdom, while slowly destroying everything she sought to preserve. The corruption spreads so subtly that she recognizes it only in hindsight, pride disguised as service until no distinction between them remains. Another reflection shows her sailing into the west aboard a ship of crystal and gold, finally granted the pardon that would end her long exile from the undying lands. The peace in this vision radiates like sunlight, promising rest from burdens that have shaped her existence for millennia. Yet the image also reveals what her departure would cost: the guidance and protection that others would lose when she abandons Middle-earth to whatever darkness awaits without her presence. The mirror reveals moments when her wisdom fails, decisions that seem correct at the time but lead to consequences that mock her intentions and demonstrate the limitations of even immortal understanding. She sees herself offering counsel that proves disastrously wrong, her enhanced perception somehow blind to crucial factors that render her guidance worse than useless. These visions of fallibility prove more disturbing than any external threat, for they challenge the foundations upon which her entire sense of purpose rests. Most painful are the reflections that show her ultimate fate, the inevitable erosion that time works upon even immortal beings who remain too long in the mortal world. She watches herself growing distant and cold, her compassion hardening into indifference as the accumulated weight of ages transforms empathy into mere intellectual exercise. The Galadriel in these visions retains all her power and knowledge while losing the very qualities that make such gifts valuable. Yet the mirror also reveals possibilities for growth and transformation that surprise her with their beauty, showing paths toward wisdom that transcends even her current understanding. In these brighter visions, she becomes something greater than the sum of her accumulated knowledge and power, love refined by experience into force capable of healing wounds that have festered since the world's youth. The potential for such evolution provides hope that balances the darker possibilities she must also acknowledge. The experience of witnessing her own reflection in the waters teaches humility that no amount of observing others could provide. She recognizes that she remains as subject to the forces of choice and consequence as any mortal, her immortality providing extended opportunity for both wisdom and folly rather than exemption from the fundamental uncertainties that govern all conscious existence. This knowledge proves both sobering and liberating, freeing her from the burden of imagined infallibility. When these personal visions fade back into ordinary water, Galadriel carries with her renewed understanding of the courage required to act wisely despite uncertain outcomes. She has seen herself fail in ways that humble her pride, while also glimpsing possibilities for success that justify continued effort despite the risks involved. The mirror's reflection of her own fate becomes mirror for the universal condition of choosing rightly, without certainty about consequences. As twilight settles over Lothlorien's golden boughs, Galadriel performs the final ritual that marks the end of another day spent in communion with the mirror's revelations. The silver basin reflects only stars and moonlight now, its supernatural properties dormant until dawn calls her back to witness whatever truths the new day will reveal. She covers the sacred water with cloth of silver thread, a gesture both practical and symbolic that represents her own need to set aside the burden of infinite sight and return to the simpler awareness that makes rest possible. The walk back to her dwelling carries her through gardens, where mallow trees whisper their ancient songs to the evening breeze. These familiar melodies provide comfort that requires no interpretation, beauty that exists purely for its own sake, rather than as symbol or portent of larger meaning. The present moment expands to fill her consciousness as supernatural vision yields to ordinary perception, that finds wonder in immediate experience rather than distant possibility. Celeborn awaits her return with the patient love that has sustained their bond through ages of joy and sorrow, understanding that needs no explanation or analysis. His presence offers anchor to simple human connection that transcends the complex web of knowledge and responsibility that normally defines her existence. Together they can share the evening's peace without words, companionship that requires no purpose beyond mutual affection freely given and gratefully received. The accumulated weight of the day's visions settles into the deep places of her memory, where they will join the vast treasury of knowledge she carries from age to age. Tomorrow will bring fresh revelations that demand careful consideration and wise response. New choices about guidance and restraint that will test her wisdom and compassion. But for now, she can set aside the burden of caring for entire civilizations and attend to the simpler needs of her own spirit. Her evening prayers encompass gratitude for the gift of sight that enables her service while acknowledging the price such awareness demands from those who accept its burden. She offers thanks for moments of silence when the mirror grants respite from vision, for friends who share her path despite its isolation, for the strength that allows her to carry knowledge that would crush unprepared minds. The balance between blessing and burden finds expression in words that rise like incense into the star-filled sky. Sleep comes to her as it does to all conscious beings, yet even her dreams remain touched by the enhanced awareness that shapes her waking hours. Visions blend with ordinary dream logic to create experiences that refresh rather than burden her spirit. In sleep, she finds the peace that daylight hours rarely allow, restoration that prepares her for whatever revelations tomorrow's communion with the mirror will bring. The cycle that governs her existence continues as it has for centuries, duty and rest alternating in rhythms as natural as breathing. Each dawn will call her back to the silver basin where past, present, and future converge in waters that reflect more than light. Until then, she rests in the present moment, finding in its simple reality the peace that makes all burdens bearable. Let this gentle meditation on wisdom's weight and the peace found in setting aside our daily concerns carry you softly into dreams, where the present moment holds all the beauty and rest your spirit requires.